Hello, and welcome to These Political Times and another installment of my Trump Tunes series of songs. I'm George Wilson, and today I'd like to highlight another of President Trump's incomparable political skills, that being his unrivaled ability to function as a Russian asset without being called out as a traitor. He seems somehow to have convinced his faithful followers that serving as chief suck-up to our enemies is the right thing for an American president to do. Not only are his actions perfectly appropriate, he tells us, but they're good for America. Take his perplexing devotion to what many believe to be our greatest geopolitical adversary, that failed gangster state and international pariah known as Russia. No collusion, no collusion. That's the president's mantra, and he's sticking to it. But if that's the case, why is it that whatever Vladimir wants, Vladimir gets? Vladimir wants NATO to disappear. Suddenly, Donald's threatening to withdraw from NATO, even though it's our most important defense alliance. Vladimir wants back into the G7, from which he was unceremoniously ejected for invading Crimea. And suddenly, Donald's campaigning for Russia to be readmitted to the G7, even though Putin refuses to leave Crimea. Vladimir wants intelligence reports ignored that say he's paying to have U.S. troops murdered in Afghanistan. And Donald says, reports? What reports? Oh, I could go on, but I think you get the point. The president has perfected the art of the con. His deceptions glide off his tongue as naturally as do the droplets of spittle on which they reside. No wonder he hates masks. But not since Benedict Arnold switched sides has an important American official, the most important American official in this case, so brazenly prioritized his own best interests over those of his country. Not that any of this should come as a surprise. The president's flat out told us he can do anything he wants. He shouts his omnipotence to the rooftops, and his rabid followers shout right back, "Lock him up!" Oh, wait, sorry, that's lock her up. After all, Hillary may have been exonerated of any wrongdoing with Benghazi or her emails, but she was running that child porn ring out of a D.C. pizza parlor, wasn't she? Isn't that what Facebook's Russia conspiracy network would have us believe? So naturally, Trump's fans, being such sticklers for decency and the rule of law, not to mention portraying America to the rest of the world as a mature and civilized democracy, viciously chant, "Lock her up!" with such fervent zeal you'd think she was molesting children in a pizza parlor. Oh, wait, they do think that, don't they? I forgot conspiracy theories are the currency of the realm in Trump world. Meanwhile, Trump ignores Putin's bounties on U.S. soldiers, blackmails the Ukraine, abandons the Kurds who fought alongside us for a decade, turns over U.S. bases in northern Syria to Russia, rudely insults our long-standing European allies. The list goes on. Yet he gets the thumbs up from his hypocrites, followers. It's like they're saying, keep disrespecting your constituents, Mr. President. We love it when you lie to us. It's so you. But speaking of Vladimir and the Russians, that brings me to my next song. It's entitled, "The President's to Blame." And it poses the question, if the president's got nothing to hide, why doesn't he act like it? Well, if the president's got nothing to hide, why do his eyeballs collide whenever he's asked about Russian collusion? Despite evidence of a crime, why does he refuse to act and waste valuable time while Russia mounts further electoral intrusions? Well, if you happen to engage him in a discussion, why does the mere mention of the Russians cause him to start rambling incoherently about fake news? Why does he say no modern American leader's greater than Russia's murderous thug of a dictator? As for which side he's on, about what, pray tell, is he so confused? You know, I just thought we should pause here a moment to point out that the president's not the only one who's confused. We're all confused by his seemingly unswerving allegiance to Russia. But maybe we shouldn't be. After all, both Don Jr. and Eric have stated that most of their company's investment capital comes from Russia. In fact, Donald's dealings with the country go way back, which may explain why he seems to know more Russians than Vladimir Putin at a KGB reunion. Take Don Jr.'s infamous Trump Tower meeting. There were more Russians stepping off that Trump Tower elevator than lawyers demanding hush money payoffs. And poor Don Jr., he had such high hopes for that meeting, only to have it all turn out to be, well, in his words, a big waste of time. They didn't get to illegally obtain any dirt on Hillary. But isn't his sad lament kind of like saying, we tried to pick Vladimir's pocket, but he wasn't wearing any pants? And considering Don Jr.'s long-standing involvement with Russia, doesn't it seem rather odd that he failed to notice all those Russians that showed up in his office that day? First, he said there were 2, then 3, then 4. Do I hear 5, anyone? Why so many Russians, Mr. President? No collusion, no collusion. Where have I heard that before? When asked about the election hacking, the idea he seems to be backing is that it was some 400-pound guy sitting on his bed. If you were hoping I was really joking, well, I swear that's exactly what he said. Well, he acts like he's bought and paid for by the Russian government. Or maybe he helped move money onshore for some Russian kleptocrat's benefit. But still, they're both one and the same, so who cares anyway? The president's the one to blame for letting Vladimir have his own way. Let's face it, when it comes to meeting in secret, they both get their own way. Trust me, says Trump, a man documented to have told 20,000 lies in office. It's all good for America. He's like some medicine show barker, hawking his miracle cure. Here, drink my secret elixir. It'll fix what ails you. Hydroxychloroquine, anyone? But if his near fanatical devotion to Putin is so good for America, why has he even forbidden notes to be taken? You'd better believe gossips are having a field day speculating on what's really going on behind those closed doors. One thing's for sure, if it's as serious as it seems, we can only hope Kim Jong-un isn't the jealous type, since the president's already confessed he and Kim fell in love last summer. Could it be that Donald's fallen for Vlad too? Is he two-timing Kim for Vlad, or is he just indulging his philandering ways? All I can say is, given the Korean dictator's propensity for violence, we can only hope he doesn't carry out his threat to, now how did he phrase it? Tame the mentally deranged U.S. dotard with fire. That sounds pretty ominous to me, but I digress. Regarding that Trump Tower meeting, at least Don Jr. tried to adopt what he claimed was a truthful stance on the matter, that they were just discussing Russian adoptions. Then again, it's also true that no less of an authority than his daddy came up with that explanation, which makes perfectly good sense since he wasn't there. No collusion. Oh, wait, maybe we better throw in a no obstruction. Besides, as far as Don Jr. is concerned, if you've told one lie, what's to stop you from telling another, and another, and another? Well, you get my drift. He's a Trump. Word is, though, that Don Jr.'s insufficient Slavic acuity may be causing Don Sr. to question having put him in charge in the first place. After all, going forward, if his son can't recognize Russians, where will he get their investment capital? I mean, how will Don Jr. know who to hit up for some cash? Now, you've probably heard that Donald continues to resist strengthening our elections, let alone punishing Putin for his 2016 interference, and Americans are concerned. It's kind of like how it was back in the days of the Cold War, when people used to worry, the Russians are coming, duck and cover, the Russians are coming. They even made a movie by that name, which, as it turns out, seemed in a way to foretell the future, because it was a comedy, and now that the Russians are finally here, we seem to be living through a comedy of errors. It's called The Don and Vlad Show. You remember, The first episode took place in Helsinki. No? Okay, well, stick around, and I promise I'll fill you in with all the details before I sign off. If Russia was once Donald's amusement park, if he liked to play with all the oligarchs, things may no longer be looking quite so amusing. They're finally examining his finances close up. Like dirty laundry, irregularities are piling up, which may explain why his Russian investors overpay and inexplicably don't seem to mind losing. Oh, how he fought Russian sanctions. They're privately confessing they made him feel anxious about hurting poor Vladimir's feelings. Indeed, his concern must have been strong, for it was soon discovered where Donald had gone, when behind Vladimir he was found to be kneeling. By the way, you've probably heard that Russia's at it again, trying to get Trump reelected. It's not hard to understand why. No other candidate would be so eager to ignore Putin's efforts to create chaos and destabilize the Western alliance. And that's the mystery. Why has Trump been such a willing collaborator, repeatedly excusing Putin for one depraved act after another, even killings? There are a lot of killers. Do you think our country's so innocent? What's in it for Donald, alibying for Putin like that? Well, as we've seen, given his close Russian financial ties, why would he want to make things difficult for Vladimir and piss him off? After all, aside from losing Russia's electoral support, along with his long-held dream of building a Trump Tower in Moscow, not to mention all that investment capital, telling the truth about Vladimir could get you killed. So if he truly has nothing to hide, why does he hide behind his lawyers and refuse to testify and label investigation a witch hunt? He leans on his fake news crutch and protests too much, as if he'd take getting to the truth as a personal affront. Well, he acts like he's bought and paid for by the Russian government, or maybe he helped move money onshore for some Russian kleptocrat's benefit. But still, they're both one and the same, so who cares anyway? The president's the one to blame for letting Vladimir have his own way. For letting Vladimir have his own way. Now, I know I promised to fill you in on the Don and Vlad show, and I can't think of a better example of what we've been talking about, the president as con man. Only Donald could convince his supporters that he's making America great again by becoming Putin's favorite lapdog. And by the way, don't take my word for it, you can find the Don and Vlad show on YouTube. To summarize, it stars two craven clowns who, convinced of their own cleverness and locked in a scandalous bromance, brazenly debuted their collusion act on Helsinki's center stage. Unfortunately, the reviews were, well, how do I put this? Less than favorable? In fact, Donald was excoriated for siding with Russia's intelligence agencies over America's, which are considered the best in the world. It made no sense then, and it makes no sense now, unless he was trying to overcome Don Jr.'s myopia and keep those rubles rolling in. But what critics found especially galling was Vlad's triumphant finale. That's where, figuratively speaking, when asked about Russian interference in our election, he bent Donnie over and delivered his marching orders for all the world to see, in essence stating, "Repeat after me, Russia didn't do it." Whereupon the president dutifully repeated, "Russia didn't do it. Vladimir said so." No collusion, remember? But the president deserves kudos, too. After all, not only did he allow himself to be cast to type as a spineless dupe, but he executed his assignment to perfection. Such an exquisite self-portrayal, Mr. President. Reality TV's definitely your calling. Well, he acts like he's bought and paid for by the Russian government. Or maybe he helped move money onshore for some Russian kleptocrat's benefit. But still, they're both one and the same, so who cares anyway? The president's the one to blame for letting Vladimir have his own way. Now, before I close, I want to remind you to be sure to click on the subscribe button so I can let you know when I've released my next song. You can see the link just below the YouTube window. And if you'd like a CD of all the songs that are part of these political times, head on over to my production site and join me. You'll find that link below too. Oh, and don't forget to click on that bell icon so you don't miss a thing. Meanwhile, if Donald and Vlad don't get married and open up a Colorado cake decorating shop together, traditional couples only please, which by the way would mean they'd have to refuse themselves service, I'll tell you next time about the Republicans' cunning plan, backed by the president, to increase their electoral chances by preventing select Americans from voting. Thanks for joining me.